2, 1.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us at the 57th IAPD Monthly Forum. I am Tomiko Dagan, the Senior Vice President of the Universal Peace Federation USA and the coordinator for the Interreligious Association for Peace and Development, in short IAPD USA. IAPD is one of the associations of the Universal Peace Federation, which is a non-governmental organization that has general consultative status in the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. IAPD offers numerous programs, including this one, that bring together leading experts and civic leaders to explore the opportunities for improving relations in the Asia Pacific and beyond. This time, we are very happy to have an expert from Latin America and the Central American region. We are looking forward to this webinar as a great opportunity to gain more knowledge and about the issues and challenges, and ultimately develop the courage and commitment to make the world a better place. I'm happy to invite now today's program moderator, Mr. Larry Moffett. He's the Secretary General of Universal Peace Federation USA. He has been a leading journalist to over 80, maybe 100 different nations. So he is very, very aware of the conflict zones. So let us welcome Mr. Larry Moffett. Mr. Moffett, floor is yours. Larry, you are unmuted.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Now I'm ready to officially jump out of the gate with my big giant welcome. This is a seminar on principles of peace building and reconciliation, and we have an absolutely fantastic panel. I'm going to get into it because they both have substantial presentations to give. We will begin with Ms. Yadira Pinilla, who is a senior officer and coordinator for human development and scholarships over at OAS. She works out of the Department of Human Development, Education, and Employment over there. Before that, she was an advisor for the Department of Sustainable Democracy and Special Missions, another department of OAS. For 25 years, she's had tremendous experience in international affairs, multilateral diplomacy. She's worked extensively with every UN agency, regional organizations, civil society organizations, peace building and democracy promotion. Ms. Pinilla has held political advisory positions for both the Assistant Secretary General and the Secretary General of the OAS on issues of security, democracy, political crises, and youth development. She's worked with the University of Pennsylvania's Netter Center in developing learning community centers for higher education, associations in the Latin American Caribbean region to promote the role of universities and training for young people. She's been the chairwoman of the Young Americans Business Trust. It's an affiliate of OAS focused on youth leadership and entrepreneurship. What is so apparent in looking over her resume is that her life's work has encompassed the widest range of nationalities and personalities she's had to learn to interact with peacefully and constructively. She is trained in conflict management, originally from Bogota, Colombia, and has 3 children. Señora, es tan agradable tenerte con nosotros. Gracias por venir.
Muchas gracias, Larry. Thank you so much, Tomiko. A pleasure to be here sharing this space with Robert Kittle and so many others. I want to thank Tomiko Dugan for her kind invitation. I am very excited to be able to share the experience of the OAS in peace building and the promotion of dialogue and democracy. I believe that everyone would know what the OAS is, but just in case there may be a few people out there who don't have the context of the OAS, it is the oldest intergovernmental regional organization in the world, and is the premier platform for dialogue, consensus building, and negotiation for the Americas, which constitutes the Western Hemisphere. Currently, we have 33 active member states. We work in service of our member governments. We normally have 35 member states. Currently, Nicaragua has withdrawn from the OAS, as well as Venezuela. And we have 75 observer countries, meaning that we have 75 countries from around the world that have access to the OAS through either means of being a donor or supporting our projects in the region. So without further ado, I have been working on the topic of peace and democracy and dialogue in the OAS since the early 1990s. As you all probably know, both the UN and regional international organizations have played key roles in the peace building and conflict resolution work that's been done around the world. We have been focusing on Central America and South America. And to give you some background on how the organization began working in this field, I have put together a small presentation that will try to summarize as best as I can 15 years of post-conflict peace building that has in some way or shape or form contributed to democratic stability through the use of the promotion of dialogue as a tool for generating consensus, strengthening national public policy processes, and resolving long-standing socio-political conflicts and differences between different sectors of society and their government counterparts. So let me just quickly go to my PowerPoint, and hopefully this will work. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is my, oops. Okay. Just very quickly, the OAS, for those who may not know, we work on the basis of mandates, and our mandates are strengthening peace, security, preventing conflicts, and resolving disputes. That is in our charter. However, I do want to make a point here that when I started at the OAS over 30 years ago, I was quite young. I wanted to work in conflict resolution and peace building. And I did my thesis, my postdoc thesis on the OAS, because I noted that we did not have any resolutions or mandates to work on intra-conflict resolution or peace building, meaning working within the member state, within a national sovereign state. Our charter clearly delineates, and it's obviously clearly linked to the times when the OAS was actually established, that the OAS is to maintain peace and security and prevent conflicts between states, but not necessarily within states. So I decided to dedicate my postdoc project and thesis to making the case that the OAS had to work in intra-conflict resolution and intra-peace building in order to support its mandate of working to harmonize and maintain peace between states. That was not an easy task. I had to work towards looking for mandates and resolutions that would support our work in conflict prevention and mitigation, crisis prevention and conflict resolution. And therefore, one of the premises that I made a case for was that within the framework, the broader framework of the mandate that we have for working on democracy and democratic governance, we could begin working on the issues of peace and conflict resolution. So the broader framework this broader framework enabled the OAS to work both horizontally and vertically in each of its member states, making sure that the work that it was implementing was sustainable. And what do I mean by horizontally and vertically? I mean, working from the ground up, from the most local levels, from the most community level situations to all the way up to the government, and also working horizontally, meaning that we worked on different spaces, informal and formal, national dialogues, which were ongoing, which was a mechanism that many of the Latin American countries would use to address differences and conflicts, to supporting officially mandates or missions that were set up to support peace processes. Such was the case, and I will speak later to that, in Guatemala, Colombia, Suriname, Nicaragua, and to a certain extent, Haiti. So a little bit of background and context so you can see how long the OAS has been working on this. I started in the Unit for Promotion of Democracy, which was only focused on post-conflict peace building in the 1990s. And as I was mentioning to you, between 1992 and 2002, I spent 10 years trying to propose to member states on a both formal and informal level that the OAS needed a unit or a department or an official area that they could begin working on the issue of dialogue as a sort of entry point for working on conflict resolution and conflict management. And so in 2002, I was quite happy and pleased that a proposal that I sent over to the U.S. mission to the Department of State was accepted, and the first Office of Conflict Management and Dialogue began. And I was the person heading that office at the time. In between 2002 and 2005, we had a new Secretary General who was quite responsive to the issue of the OAS working on preventive diplomacy, institutional strengthening and mediation and dialogue, and developing early warning systems. And that enabled us to broaden our work tremendously, and to really delve into the current conflicts and the current situations that were ongoing, which there were many issues going on in the early 2000s. But what we decided to do, only because there was a sensitivity from member states on the issue of intervention, especially because I think many of you will understand that the history of the OAS has been sometimes controversial, meaning that there was a perception in the earlier years of the OAS that there was a U.S. dominance in the organization, primarily because the U.S. was the one member state that contributed substantially to the overall budget. And there was a interpretation that meant that the U.S. had more power than other member states, which was not necessarily true, because in the OAS, every member state is equal to one vote or one voice, and it doesn't matter the size or the GDP of the country, nor whether the country is contributing 50% of the budget or 5% of the budget. However, the OAS struggled with this perception strongly over the years, and the issue of non-intervention by the OAS was quite a very it was a concern for many member states. And so when we began working on this issue of conflict resolution, as you can imagine, and dialogue promotion, which meant that we were bringing different sectors, actors in conflict together, it meant that the OAS was an outside third party, and we had to work very hard to be viewed as an honest broker and as a consensus builder. So over time, I think that the issue of the relationship between conflict resolution, conflict management, dialogue, and democratic consolidation and governance became much more explicit and clear to member states. And we have had extensive missions that have allowed us to work on many different types of conflicts. And this is a somewhat 20-year span of accumulated experience in the peaceful resolution of conflicts. And it, as you can see, it shows how we strengthen the OAS capacity internally by creating structures and formal departments, adding tools and beginning programs that delved into different aspects of the overall peace building architecture. As I had stated before, the OAS has a robust normative framework for interstate conflict, but no mandate or direct framework for working. And I had spoken on this many, many times at the time, where there was a question about why we were not doing more in the area of conflict resolution or peace building. And this is work that I did with the UN, where essentially, in order to really work sustainably and to actually be able to create the capacity in the country to allow the local actors in the direct sectors to be able to manage, we had to have the political context had to be the adequate one. Our entry points, the OAS is only as good as if it's invited. We don't impose ourselves. We don't force the government or force any sector to allow us to come in to support any of their projects or their missions. So we work on a direct mandate, and we have to manage the non-intervention clause as best as we can. And of course, peace building and reconciliation, as many of you already know, requires tremendous amounts of money, resources, especially in peace building missions. So our first two missions that navigated all these points that I've just made, these constraints, and navigated them quite well, were these two missions that you find that I have right here. Pro Paz Guatemala, which I was the actual mission director there. That was a long-standing peace building program in Guatemala, quite unique, where we really worked very comprehensively at the local level, more so than any other place. And then CIAP Nicaragua, which incorporated elements of demobilization and reintegration of military personnel into civilian productive life. And so CIAP Nicaragua was quite unique in its own right, because it was not necessarily considered a peace building mission, but it actually, after we systematized all our experiences, realized that it had contributed tremendously to democratic stability and peace within the country. So between the late 1990s and all the way up to like 2005, we didn't really have a department or a secretariat, as we call it in the OAS, to harness and to host all of these missions, all of these lessons learned, all of these experiences in the field. However, we were able to propose to member states the creation of a department where we could continue doing democratic institutional strengthening, where we could continue to support and establish special peace missions, and we could continue to work on democratic governance. So the Department for Sustainable Democracy and Special Missions was born, and basically it worked on both interstate and intrastate conflict mitigation. We had many different missions during a certain time. At this time, when this department is actually established, I go on to work for the Assistant Secretary General and Secretary General as a senior advisor as part of his cabinet. This work begins to flourish because the OAS is able to fundraise and get tremendous amounts of funding for very different missions. This mission to support combating corruption and impunity in Honduras was highly supported by the U.S. government. It was also a unique mission because it really was only focused on corruption and impunity. Of course, we have the mission to support the peace process in Colombia, which I will speak a little bit more in depth about. It's still ongoing. What's unique about the mission is that this mission was actually established before the peace process was even close to signing, and it gives some support to the idea of preparing the country, preparing civil society, preparing government for what at that time they thought was never going to come, which was actually a peace agreement. We've also been working on a OAS mission between Belize and Guatemala. This is a territorial dispute that's been also in existence for quite some time and has recently gone to The Hague for resolution and has come out. Actually, it's been pretty favorable to both countries. The OAS played a very critical role there in brokering dialogue and negotiations between Belize and Guatemala. Within the Belize and Guatemala mission, we have an office on the border between Belize and Guatemala called the Agency Zone. And that is an office that brings that there's that disputed zone where we work with both Guatemalans and Belizeans to create projects at the local level that bring them together in a more positive sense in building relationships between the communities that live in this ambiguous zone so that it contributes to the overall formal process of demarcation of the actual boundary that's in dispute. We also have established a program that's unique in it that we normally would not have this program here, but it's called the Inter-American Judicial Facilitators Program. And this program has been working with the judiciaries in different countries to develop a mediation and facilitator program that will allow judiciary systems to delegate, I suppose, or to send certain situations that could escalate to local mediators and local facilitators for their resolution. Once again, here are the special missions since 2004 that the OAS has played a very critical role in. And some of these I am not going to speak to because I wouldn't have enough time. They were smaller ones, but as you can see, we've also played a role in Bolivia. We've played a role in Paraguay. These are all been political crises where the OAS has been called, or the OAS Secretary General has been called to use his good offices to de-escalate or deactivate certain political conflicts. And I don't have beyond 2018, but I do have here some of the descriptions of the different missions. And as I mentioned to you, we did have this emblematic mission in Honduras, which was the first of its type in the history of the OAS to work against corruption in a member state. This became a little delicate, as you can imagine, this mission, because we were investigating cases of public and private corruption that actually was linked to the current government. And so that was quite a challenge for the OAS, because the OAS has to always maintain a very clear line of neutrality and objectivity in all of the work it does. And when a member state is actually involved, it becomes more difficult. Here is the mission to support the peace building process in Colombia. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about that, but that mission now has been in existence for over 20 years, and it's been quite successful. I'm hoping that we may find an interested permanent observer that would like to fund a case study on the work that we've done there, because it really has been quite extensive. When I put on the presentation on Colombia, you will see where we are in the entire country and what some of the work that the peace mission has been able to achieve. But it's been primarily working very closely with all the governments and civil society on trying to maintain peace, not only within the peace process, the peace agreement framework, but also in trying to what we call reconcile very deep-seated what I would call, I'm thinking in Spanish, sorry, deep-seated resentments and perceptions, negative perceptions about the reintegration of many of the former paramilitary or former guerrilla members that have been reintegrated into society. So our mission has been working very closely in Colombia on a reconciliation of these different people who have been on the different sides of the conflict over time. I already spoke about Belize and Guatemala and the judiciary, so I'm going to jump right here because I don't know my time. I want to jump right here.
I was just going to suggest, if you want to, I know you have another presentation, if you want to bring the experience from Colombia forward.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just going to go through this really quickly, 2 minutes, and then I will bring that
Okay.
up.
Very good.
Perhaps this is not so important, but one of the things that we did work on was with our donors, we would always tell them that it was important not only to have the governments on board or the government on board and national and international or regional organizations, but we also needed national actors. So what I want to make a point here is that the perception of internal actors towards the intervention of a regional or international or even an NGO is very, very critical in order to sustain any kind of process, and let alone leave a lasting capacity in so that the work can be carried on. I mean, this is one of the lessons from the past that we learned in Guatemala and that we think is very important. And these are some of the distinguishing OAS features that we feel that this is probably more relatable to institutions that are like ours, but we viewed capacity building as a very important component of any peace building or reconciliation. And I don't mean just one-day trainings, but I mean capacity building where you build capacity of people within the country to continue doing the capacity building. We also viewed local ownership. This took more time, and we explained to our donors that we would only work with local actors that were interested in co-designing and co-implementing our programs. And that was a very new thing for the OAS. It was very difficult for us to explain to member states why we were doing this. But all of this was to really make sure that the work that we were doing would have a lasting effect on there. And then, of course, an effective exit strategy, which many of the international development organizations and even the US has fallen short on. We kind of just, the money runs out and we kind of leave the country. This has happened extensively in other parts of the world, particularly in Africa, where the institution just disappears over time, and then all of the work that was done also disappears. And I'm not going to go through this, and I'll just go to the Colombia very quickly and just mention that we've had a tremendous amount of international support for the OAS mission to support the peace process in Colombia. When I mean that is we have an array of European countries, governments, including many new countries that have never contributed to the peace process in Colombia. So that just gives you an idea of how extensive this is, how extensive and how well it's gone that we can continue when resources are scarce and when funding for international development, in particular funding for peace building and reconciliation, has actually diminished over time. The OAS mission in Colombia has continued to add new donors. And I'm not sure if EJ is going to put the other presentation up, or I can, we can also end here. Okay, there you go. So I'm not going to go through this. This was actually provided to me by the mission, and it's meant to just, I wouldn't mind if you would like to distribute it, but it's meant to give an overall view of the mission. And okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go to the purpose, but as I mentioned, it started in 2004, before even Colombia was even close to even a discussion on a possible peace agreement. I personally had said many times that I'm from Colombia. I've done extensive work there on an academic level, on programmatic level. And I had said publicly that I didn't think I would see a peace agreement in my lifetime. So when this happened, I was tremendously happy. But the purpose is really to work, as I said, with the strengthening the capacity of the state to also bring peace and stability to the local to the outside of, to the areas where in the parts of the country that have been the most affected by the armed conflict. And it's these are principles that we work with on any peace building initiative, which is autonomy, impartiality, flexibility. And the flexibility, believe it or not, has been the most difficult and most challenging, because we work in a bureaucracy, we work in an international organization that is quite difficult to move, and let alone change. I'm always surprised to see myself still here. I believe in the mission of the OAS, and I believe in the region, but it's been very hard for me to accept that I work in a bureaucracy. So the flexibility of that you need to have a peace mission that needs to be dynamic, that needs to be adaptive, that needs to address the changes in the government and with diplomacy, is not easy to explain. Sometimes when you need administrative support. But this is basically what the MAP OEA does, as we call it. MAP OEA assists the Colombian institutions in understanding the territorial dynamics, the impacts of the conflict on the civilian population, and the consequences of the implementation of the policies and mechanisms, both at the national. So how the government is affecting the civilian population in areas where the conflict was the most dire has been a challenge and I think in the peace building rhetoric altogether, and not only in Latin America, but I think in many other places. And so the MAP OEA plays that very important dialogue and communication role between what's happening at the local level and how the policies are affecting. We also work on victims' rights to truth, justice, and reparation. There's a whole component of the OEA, of the government's peace process and peace agreement, that works on reparation and reconciliation. And the mission works very closely in making sure that is going well and taking place in a equitable and safe space. And then we also work with state institutions that are interacting with civil society to continue to promote consensus and agreements on other aspects of the peace agreement. And then finally, we do, as I said, the capacity building and dialogue and conflict transformation. And that is our whole training aspect of our mission. And here are some of the things that we've done and we continue to do, or some of the responsibilities. I wouldn't call them duties, I would call them responsibilities of the MAP OEA. And as you can see, we have been playing a critical role, a monitoring role for the ceasefire and the cessation of hostilities and disarmament and demobilization. I can consider this a very critical role in the context of Colombia because of the historical violence. And as you probably may know or may not know, and it's with great sadness that we just had a very young presidential candidate assassinated who was being prepared to, run in the next election. He's the son of a very well-regarded former president of Colombia. He was only 39 years old. He was shot in June, and he was under critical condition, and he just passed away. And it is very sad for all Colombians that we are still witnessing this political violence against our officials and our politicians and people who really believe in peace and want to bring peace to Colombia. And these are some of the working themes that we've had throughout our entire mission. And as you can see, they're pretty comprehensive. We worked at the level of prisons. We've worked on environmental issues. We worked on drug trafficking activities and border scenarios and dynamics. The link with urban peace. And as you can see, it's pretty extensive. And we've also maintained a focus on gender and the rights of women and women victims and ethnic communities. So I think I'll wrap it up there and leave you with this map to show you how extensive we are in the entire country in the different departments. We call them departments, municipalities. Over this mission, we've had over 168 people working on this mission at times. And so it's probably considered the largest mission the OAS has had in its history, in particular in peace building. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you for your time and I'm happy to share these presentations and answer any questions later on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a tremendous presentation. Everybody here learned way more about OAS than we ever knew before, especially because most of us have not worked there or been there, and also a great deal about the dynamics of Latin America. We have a million questions, but I need to get on to our next presentation. Dr. Kittle, we are prisoners of the clock here. Dr. Robert, and if we have time, we will circle back at the very end and pick up some questions if we can. Dr. Robert Kittle has lived and worked in Asia since 1975. I ran into him in Calcutta in India about that time. He was practically running the place. Most recently, he was co-chair of the Universal Peace Federation and its director of education in the Asia Pacific region. He received his doctoral degree from the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut in 2004, specializing in family values-based character education for adolescents, very specialized. And during his 5 decades of living and working in Asia, he's published 14 books, a lot of articles, countless curricular and in-depth research papers, along with being a very active photojournalist with stories running in numerous, 7 at last count, international publications. Additionally, Dr. Kittle has been a guest speaker and educator in schools, colleges, universities, faith-based organizations, teaching hundreds of thousands of students in 40 or 50 countries. I've been in several of his lectures. He is absolutely amazing. He knows South Asia like most people know their neighborhood, and he has tremendous experience. He's one of the most widely traveled, experienced, and knowledgeable people. And now he is hanging out in Chicago with his 3 grandchildren, and a lot of people envy him because of that. Dr. Kittle, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Larry. Nice to be here. Yadira, I was spellbound by your presentation. My one takeaway was working to have the focus of the OAS not only between the states, but within the states. That's a major shift, more effective and more powerful. So congratulations, you're spearheading that effort. That's really a not only a feather in your cap, but really a shield you can carry with you. Let me begin, though, since we have a prisoner looking over us, the prisoner of the clock, as Larry says. I will begin my presentation here. And I'm assuming everybody can see that, right? That's correct. Thank you, Tomiko-san and Larry. And also not with us today is Dr. Jenkins. He's extremely busy, but thank you for this kind invitation. The principles of peace, building, and reconciliation, people-to-people engagement. I'm going to talk about peace building and reconciliation, but actually I want to kind of maybe change the name a little bit. Yadira talked about it, peace building and violence prevention. Prevention is better than cure. But I've lived in Nepal for 10 years during the transition from a monarchy to a democratic system. So I documented, reported about this peace process. So first I need to give credit to, he is now the international vice president of UPF, Honorable Eknath Dekal. And he was the one that orchestrated, they formed a family party called the Nepal Family Party. They rewrote the constitution of the country, a coalition, of course, not by themselves. They worked to disarm the violent Maoists and integrate them into society. They promulgated the new constitution at the anger of their southern neighbor, India. And so India boycotted Nepal for 6 months. We were cooking on wood at that time in Kathmandu. And then they ushered in the age of democracy. One of the most important programs that he held in his country was the peace conference in 2018, the Asian summit. There were 7 current heads of state attending, including Prime Minister from Cambodia, of course, from Nepal, from Myanmar, and some island nations, including the Philippines and other countries. This is Prime Minister KP Oli with the founder of UPF, Mother Moon, at that conference there at that time. He was given the Ambassador for Peace Leadership and Good Governance Award, the highest award that UPF offers. This is Honorable Eknath at the opening session that they had. We had over 4,500 dignitaries from around the world. And one of the hallmarks of our program is not only intergovernmental and within the nation states, but we want to go also within the families and ultimately, as you will see, within ourselves to solve that conflict. But we had 700 mayor couples come and rededicate their marriage at that time. So it was a tremendous event. But I want to turn to the last 6 years I lived in the Philippines. And there we formed a school, an international academy called Sunwa International Academy. It was established in 2012. They have 500 students, K to 12, and it is expanding. There's room to expand. The hallmark of this institution, there has never been one teen pregnancy at this institution in the 3 years of existence, and no sexual disease among the students. And the government looked at this and they said, teach us how to do it. Because this is from the Business World magazine a couple of years ago. The Philippines is estimated to lose $33,600,000,000 every year because of adolescent pregnancy. Why? Because kids get pregnant, they drop out of school, no more education, no more job training, and yet they've got to compete with Taiwan, China, Korea, Japan. They can't do it without that training and education. So the government considers this a national priority. I'm happy because this is the area that I've worked in, and finally somebody put a price tag on it. Free sex is not free, at least not in the Philippines. It costs $600 million a year. Free sex is not free. Anyway, so we went to the government. In this case, the National Youth Commissioner, the Honorable Kadema, and we said, we'd like to take a program like this, around the country. And he said, well, how about something else? We want you, our organization, to teach young people the dangers of really militant violence and, the communist influence, especially in the southern Mindanao area. We said, okay, we can do that too. So we started a program called Raising Patriotic Youth for Nation Building. Raising Patriotic Youth. How can we raise up our youth to be nation builders? Because they've got to do that. Yadira was talking about that. That's really the goal, is this transformation, not only governmental, not only, organizational, but actually also individual transformation. The focus of this program built on UPF 5 principles of peace. I'll go through them. I won't talk about them. We are one family, centered on God. The highest qualities of human beings are spiritual and moral in nature. The family is the school of love and peace. Living for others enables reconciliation, and peace comes through cooperation beyond ethnicity, religion, and nationality. Actually, I mentioned Honorable Eknot before. When the new democratic government was formed, he became the Minister of Peace and Reconciliation, and really directly. So next time you have a program, let's invite him. So this program was established focusing on the young people. It's a student-led program. The founder is Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, now the widow of the former founder. They found UPF together. So we partnered with 4 government agencies. The National Youth Commission, in charge of all the young people of the country. They have 48,000 barangays. These are like municipalities, even smaller than municipalities, like districts or precincts. The National Security Council, which controls the police and the army, everything to do with national security. NTF-LCAC, which is the National Task Force for Ending Communism, Armed Conflict, and the DILG, the Department of Interior, for local government. We also worked with an NGO, Hands Off Our Children. This is a parent group, mainly mothers, who their children have been taken by the communists into the forest and are working and rebelling against the country. So these parents are also involved. We worked under what is called the Whole of Nation Approach, Executive Order number 70 by President Duterte. And the first question we asked, since we're going to raise patriotic youth, we asked, what is patriotic youth? And more importantly, who defines it? Are we going to give a definition from America for Philippines? That won't work. So what we did is look at the most important document in the country, the Constitution. And we found that in the Constitution of the Philippines, patriotic or patriotism was mentioned 6 times. I'm not going to go into each, but I'll just read the titles. Avoid to involve with public and civic affairs. That's what a patriot does. 2, they promote liberation and development. That's what a patriot does. They serve with utmost responsibility and loyalty. They are known for honesty and integrity. They possess self-discipline and embody ethical and spiritual values, and they appreciate the government, military, and respect for human rights. Look at 2, just so that we have a snapshot of what this really took. It's very simple, but the simplicity, I think, added to the power of the program. Number 3, what is a patriotic youth? They serve with most responsibility and loyalty, all right? So how do we define that? How do we use that? And again, going to the individual level, what does it mean for me personally, individually, to be responsible? Well, each of us have a mind and body. And utmost responsibility is actually the relationship between the mind and body. The mind is the internal nature. It's invisible. It's of a higher dimension, more public in that sense. The body is the external form, visible, more, the self-maintenance. We need both the public mind, the vision, and we need the self-maintenance. But more important than both of them, it's not one or the other, it's the priority. The mind, because it has a public dimension, is higher, and the physical body has a lower. They're both important, both valuable, but the priority is critically important, because if this priority is upside down, then we get conflict starting within me. If my body leads me and I'm worried just about myself, then that becomes me, 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 me. And I don't worry about others. It can become really a narcissism or pathology. It becomes a really big problem, hard to solve, even within the individual. It's selfishness at different levels. So what we want to do, especially young people, as they're developing their character, we want to make this crystal clear. It's an issue of priority. Our first responsibility to be a patriot is to align the mind and body correctly. If they're inversely aligned, then we've got a problem. And we bring into this the 2 main religious groups within the Philippines, first the Christian, and we quote from the Bible. Jesus said, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about the body." Don't be anxious. Don't worry about the body so much. Well, what should we worry about? Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all the other things will be added to you. Muslims also, we need to reach out to them and touch their religious scripture. Each soul, each person is responsible for his own actions. Wow. You are responsible. No soul will bear the burden of another. I can't do it for you. You can't do it for me. We each have this gift of responsibility. That's how it works. That's simple. Next is we have a patriotic youth, the fourth one, the second one, and last one that I'll talk about, known for honesty and integrity. How do we define that? Again, we go back to this mind-body thing, and the mind is where we have our thoughts. And when those thoughts become verbalized, they're called words. The body, it's where we act. So the relationship between what we say and what we do creates honesty. If I say something and do it, then I'm an honest person. Take it to the bank, they say. You can count on that. And the reverse, if I do something and then I report back honestly, that's integrity. So these two relationships begin there. We learn them first within the relationship of the family, primarily in relationships to our parents. Honor your father and mother in the Bible, the Old and New Testament. Worship Allah alone, la ilaha illallah, there's only one God, and do good unto your parents. Worship God and do good to your parents. And the near of kin, there are, of course, Confucianism, filial piety, which is a value that is dominant in the Asia region. So that means if we go back and follow it, that our relationship with our parents builds this, this character that we need within us. Our phrase from the founder is living for the sake of others. Well, the first other, the first person, the model, the paradigm of living for the sake of others is when we honor our parents. If we do that, then we become filial children, filial piety, filial sons, filial daughters. Filial means we have the love of our parents as primary, not love of self, but love of parents. The mind body is automatically aligned correctly, where the mind, the public side, dominates the body side, and thus develops good character. So this is our North Star. And we talk to kids, not only love your parents, that's an emotion, but how do you honor your father and mother? What do you do? This is the foundation and focus of the conscience itself. So then we developed a program. It's called The Role of Patriotic Youth in Nation Building. I won't go into it. There's 7 chapters. We created the program. And here are the results that we had. I'll wrap it up soon. We had 17 regions. This was during COVID, so we couldn't go out. But there are 17 regions in the Philippines. We went to every region, working with these 4 government agencies. We contacted 26,000 students, and we had 6,677, because it was a 2-day program. So it was a bit of investment for these nearly 7,000 students that graduated. That's the external side. Also, we did 4 evaluation assessments, a pre-post test, session evaluations, program objective assessments, and reflections. The overall finding, we have the data if you'd like. It's, we need more time, but the participants strongly agreed. Our success ranged from 81 to 99% successful. The government looked at that and they said, wow. When they do a program, they said, if we get 65 or 70, we're very happy. You got 81 to 90. What was the 99? Everybody asked, well, what was the 99? So they said the course content was good, the objectives were achieved. And in one particular program, the Peace Designer program, I'll explain very quickly, we got 99%. This is the one that we follow up. Well, this is the most successful. Let's follow up on that. But before that, in the National Security Council, their annual report, we had a 3-page write-up of this event. They said the program aims to promote the role of youth in nation building, conducted nationwide. The Youth Forum was undertaken in partnership with the National Youth Commission and the International Association for Youth and Students. We got an award from the government on the 3rd anniversary. by President Duterte at the International Association as one of the leading private sector contributors. Going forward, we're taking this education curriculum. We've done it to 17 regions. We're going to go to the 81 provinces, and we're expanding the most successful program, which was Peace Designers. What is that? We teach young people to design their own peace project. What is your passion? Don't do something that you have to learn. Do something that you already do, that you love to do. It's skateboarding. How can you make skateboarding a peace project, for example? And then we teach them how to advertise. How do you talk about that? And we have oral competition. Philippines has won international competitions in this. Other programs, we're working with a 1 billion tree plantation with the government. We've planted, our organization has pledged 1 million. We've planted about 50,000 so far, but we will continue. Peace, Pure Love programs, working with young people, teaching character in terms of family building, even before they get married, and then International Youth Assembly. One of the other programs built on this, because our school is in Antipolo, part of the municipality of Manila, and we are now signing a commitment of agreement with Antipolo and a Korean county called Gapyeong County. And this is when we met the mayor of Antipolo, and this is with our leaders that were there. I was there in the Philippines at that time with my wife on my left. And then we had launched this program, a special service volunteer program working within the Gapyeong area. We go out and do service projects, cleanup projects every month with the program. We took this program and now have a sister ceremony. In the center here is the mayor of Gapyeong County. And the reason we chose this is because we have schools in Gapyeong and we've got schools in Antipolo. And in both cases, these schools are outstanding. In Gapyeong County in Korea, it's the only county where the population is growing. Other places of the Korea, the population is shrinking. There's not enough kids for the elementary school, middle school, high schools. They're closing schools. They're building schools in Gapyeong. And the governor here knows why. It's because this organization has a concentration of members that are connected with the faith-based organization called Unification Church, or we call it Family Federation, a concentration of these members, and we advocate very strongly marriage, family, childbearing, motherhood, these values that help to create the population rather than having it decline. I'll end there and thank you for your time and attention and look forward to the interaction that will follow. Thank you.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Robert. Yadira and Robert, these were tremendous presentations. We're going to strike a blow for freedom and cast off the slavery of the clock. So, because we are a free people. And I've got a question for each one of you. I'd like to start with Yadira. This one came across the chat box put in by Wayne Hankins. Of course, you know that the last 4 years, 4 years before this current president, we had an open southern border, and we had maybe between 10 and 15 million people, nobody knows, come across the border from every country, but they came in through Latin America. And they were certainly most of them were Latin Americans that we know of. A lot of drugs came in, a lot of unaccompanied minors. What role did the OAS play in observing this, encouraging or discouraging? Were you neutral in the massive numbers? What was the OAS thinking and doing during this period of the open border?
Well, first of all, we do not intervene in national policies or national laws. So this would have come under the immigration laws of the United States under the Biden administration. The United States sits at the OAS Permanent Council and is able to bring any topics to share with the rest of the region. And what we have been doing is playing a preventive role in that the more developed and the more prosperous Central American countries and Latin American countries are, the more equitable distribution of resources is secured by the governments, the less people are forced to migrate for a variety of reasons, as you all know. People migrate for many, many reasons. They're not all negative, they're also positive. And so we have not been getting involved in migration. The only thing we do is we do have an area that monitors policies and does sharing best practices between countries that countries can learn from each other on how they've regulated migratory flows into their countries. But as we don't get involved in national laws, we did not get involved in the countries that were the sources of migration. So
Understood. Thank you. And the U.S. could have brought it up anytime they wanted to, being a member of that board of that Central Council. You mentioned that Venezuela and Nicaragua both separated from OAS. Was that as a result of some pressure or some discouragement from the United States being a member of OAS, or did it have to do with more internal matters within Latin America?
in order to be a member of the OAS, you have to accept that you need to hold free and fair elections, free and fair and transparent democratic elections. Venezuela has been a very complex case. The previous Secretary General, he just left. We just elected a new Secretary General, actually was quite active and assertive in promoting free and fair elections, which brought him in a very contentious situation with the Maduro administration. Therefore, the Maduro administration felt that the OAS was no longer a place where they wanted to be. And every member state who decides they want to withdraw and no longer abide by the values and principles of being part of the OAS may do so, and Venezuela decided. In the case, Venezuela has decided to do that, and yet there's some controversy because the United States recognizes the incumbent, well, not the incumbent, the opposition leader, Guaido, and there are several other member
Did she
states.
freeze?
There are several other member states that do not recognize
Did I
Guaido.
freeze?
And he's the supposedly opposition leader that won the last elections, but was not accepted by the current government. In the case of Nicaragua, they basically decided to withdraw because we were trying to support dialogue internally during a crisis that was taking place a few years back. And they felt that they did not want to be part of the OAS because it's been under the same leadership and same, I would have to say, somewhat quasi-dictatorship of the last 40 years. So
Okay. Thank
so
you very much.
it's not just the United States, it's all the member states together because it's
Understood.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Very good answers to both questions. Dr. Kittle, Robert, you mentioned running a high school. I guess that was in the Philippines. Where was that? With 0 teen pregnancies and 0 sexually transmitted diseases over a 20-year period. And people were wondering, how did you do that? In the time it takes to deliver an elevator speech or a phone call from a mayor, what is the secret sauce for doing that? 20 years seems unbelievable.
Yes. How do we do that? I hid that slide. I'll go back. I got to go here. Very simply, we took the ideals of this family federation. So what Father and Mother Moon established was initially a faith-based organization. And we realized that's important, but there are limitations. And so they wanted to reach beyond that into the larger community, but take those ideals, those values of the family and bring them into the society, into the community. So what it meant, because the Family Federation has its origin in Asia. The difference is Christianity in the European and North and South American, that Western Christianity tends to be more individual centered. I'm not saying individualistic or selfish, but it focuses more on the individual, even the salvation, the salvific process. How do I save myself? When I was growing up, I wondered, well, what about my mom and dad, whom I love? And so this federation, having its roots in Asia, focuses, primarily, we include that. Yes, we need this process of individual responsibility, but also equal, if not more important, is we need the institution of marriage and family and that integration. So that's the uniqueness of this focus. How did we do it? We did three things in the school. Every year, because there's a turnover of teachers, that's constant in the education system. So every year we would do an extensive 7-day education program for every teacher that comes into the school, whether they're new or not. And they would get a full understanding of this concept of what we're talking about, because it can't be done in just a few hours or even a few days. The second thing is when parents come into the school and want their children to be enrolled, we say that's wonderful, but this school is family oriented. And the most important thing you can do as parents for the sake of your children, whatever age, whether they're in elementary school or in high school, they need to see that love and commitment that you have to each other. That's the best model, not what the teacher says in the classroom, but what the parents do and say in front of their own kids. So we tell the parents, we want you to participate in a marriage rededication during the school year sometime. Not for your own sake, it can be, and go on a second honeymoon, that's fine, but really now for the sake of your kids. They need to see that. And the third thing is the policy in the school up front from the beginning: no boyfriend, no girlfriend. And that was clear to the parents, that's clear to the students, and that policy is, lovingly and yet clearly enforced in the extracurricular activities that the school does. That's a nutshell.
Did you have more people wanting to get in than saying, hey, that's pretty intrusive, not for me?
I'm sure there were some. I don't know the numbers, but the school is overflowing. They're thinking of building another building that I showed you a picture. They want to expand that. And if they do, I'm sure it will be full very quickly and very easily. The most important thing is the government is interested. How did you do it? How can we take this model and bring it, into the Antipolo, into that community or even nationwide? And so we're working with them on that as well.
Wow, you should start a country. Somebody has to. People start countries. You should start one, Rob.
Can we do that in Chicago?
Yeah, it needs a country. Hey, here's another one. This from Bill Stoner. What's the main mission? This is a very short answer, the elevator answer. What's the main mission of the Asia Pacific Union, and how does it actually contribute to building peace?
I would blunder if I tried to answer that, and I would say there's an AI app called GPT Chat, and it's going to do much better than I don't know the details, and I would embarrass myself. So let me not try and get involved into that. Scott could answer that. He is the
Okay.
politician. I'm the educator. He's the politician. So that goes to the next seminar. When ECNAT comes, bring that question. Keep it. It's a good question.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert Kittle and Yadira Pinilla. Thank both of you. This has been a tremendous experience for both of us. Each of you represents a perspective on the two different hemispheres, Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere. And you both have so much experience. We're truly grateful that you.
Also, she's got the big picture and I've got the small picture. Let's put them together.
To me, both your pictures are enormous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you all. Take care.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Robert Kittle and then Yadira. As we mentioned that, people-to-people engagement is essential no matter what. And so you demonstrated those two, and also people who are on this Zoom. But each one has a tremendous potential and responsibility. And so we are looking forward to working together. Thank you so much for joining us.
Tomiko.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great program. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Robert, do you have a PowerPoint which it can be publicly used?
Yeah, I can send it to you
Yeah,
after. I'll
thank you
send
so
it.
much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because I think some of principles you mentioned might be really appropriate when we carry on for the
I'll
next
even include the
program.
hidden slides. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this month is UN promoting International Day of Peace. So it's really important, something tangible, some programs it's worked in one country. It should work in different countries as well. So thank you so much. Thank you.